So why do we cross over subwoofers at 80 hertz when we're setting up a surround sound system? Um, it's a very interesting question. I actually thought about this today while at work, and it took me about 5 minutes just to wrap my own head around like why is that arbitrary number 80 just like doing the rounds. So I did some digging. I also um, thought about it in a more practical way. Why do we cross over at a particular, like, let's say, set frequency, which is 80? Why not higher? Why not lower? I mean, so when I looked at online forums, all of them were like, oh, THX says that 80 hertz, below 100 hertz, humans can't really sense where the base frequency is emanating from when the subwoofer is placed in the room, or humans can't identify the direction where the sound is coming from below 80 hertz or below 100 hertz, and which is not true, really, which is not true because, okay, humans cannot differentiate sound frequencies which are less than 20 hertz. That's a fact. You can still feel them, so you can still feel subsonics. Um, Subsonic is basically any frequency below 20 hertz, and the way you feel subsonic is you feel it in your chest. When, let's say, there's a proverbial explosion in the movie that you're watching, and you can feel that impact. That when a bass driver moves, it obviously, because of the larger wavelength, it's going to push a lot of air. And when it pushes that air, when it successfully manages to push the air and hold the driver in place and not just let it fart along, that's when you really feel it in your chest, in your bones. That's when you feel bass. But that is very directional. When you hear an explosion, when you feel that blast of air coming, obviously it's very directional. It's physics, so air is moving from one point of reference to the other. So you're gonna feel it, and you're gonna get a sense from where it's coming from. Um, so that is the textbook approach of why we cross over subwoofers at 80 hertz. But it got me thinking. It doesn't. That's not the reason why you would cross over at 80 hertz. You can actually cross over speakers at subwoofers at about like 100 hertz, 120. It actually all depends on how large is your woofer driver. Let's say typically if it's a surround sound system and it's typically like a decentish setup, I'm talking about like at least like two 15-inch subwoofers, maybe in a master slave or maybe as a 7.2 system running independently. You can have the subwoofer driver handle frequencies between 20 hertz to, let's say, about 80 hertz to 100 hertz. The subwoofers are rated to handle between 20 hertz to 300 hertz. So you have the subwoofer in the surround sound setup handling that frequency band between 20 to 80 to 20 to 100. But what about the 100 to 300 hertz? What happens there? So now that you have your LCRs, you have your surround sound speakers, etc., they all come with their built-in woofer, which can again range from 5.5 inches in diameter all the way to 8 inches if you're lucky, even larger. I really doubt that, no one's going to do that. But they have their own internal crossovers as well, right? Those LCR speakers which have a 1-inch tweeter, a 3-inch, maybe 4-inch mid-range driver, and a 5.5-inch, a 6-inch, or 8-inch woofer driver. They all have inbuilt crossovers as well. It's a 3-way speaker. So it's automatically, when you send it a signal, it's that internal crossover is going to separate the frequencies. Okay, low frequencies go to the woofer, mid-bass gets to the mid-range, high frequencies go to the tweeter. That is happening in any case. You can't stop that. So when you're passing, let's say, 20 hertz to 80 to 100 hertz to your subwoofer, the 100 hertz to 300 hertz bracket is sort of left unfulfilled. Because your mid-bass and your tweeters can't handle that frequency. So the woofer drivers in your LCR system are capable of handling that. And the reason they're smaller is the lower the frequency, let's say 20 hertz to 80 hertz or 100 hertz, it requires much more power to move air because the wavelengths of the low frequencies are quite high. The higher up in frequency you go, the wavelength reduces. So you require much less power to drive, let's say, a 120 hertz signal or a 200 hertz signal. So by enabling the crossover at 80 hertz to 100 hertz to your main subwoofer, the woofer drivers of your LCRs and other speakers can actually handle the leftover frequency gap, which is between 100 to 300. And Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I feel that the crossover is actually set at 80. And I'm not saying 80 is a hard limit. You can go 100, you can go 120, you can even go 50 hertz. Just have your frequency subwoofer. You just have your subwoofer handle the frequency range between 20 hertz to 50 hertz, and let your if your speakers, if your LCRs are relatively good, they can handle the rest of the frequency band. What I would actually recommend is if you get like a master slave subwoofer setup where your master subwoofer handles 20 to 50 or 20 to 60, and your slave can handle anywhere between 60 to 120, and then the rest can get the job for the rest of the frequencies can be taken over by the woofer drivers inside your speakers. So yeah, those are my 2 cents. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Until next time.